Stay in the center of the circle and allow all things to take their course. The burden of control, the great illusion. Now, why does the Tao Te Ching say that? Why would the Tao Te Ching tell us to stay in the center of the circle and allow all things to take their course? Allow all things to take their course. Why would it say that? Because it's telling us to not attach ourselves to control, to the outcome. Because when we attach ourselves to an outcome or to control, we're trapped. We're caught in the ego. And anytime we're caught in the ego, we're trapped in the illusion. We're trapped in a lower perspective. When we think we know, or we think we have control, or we think we're somebody doing something, we're trapped. We're trapped in a lower perspective. And there's always a higher perspective, which is what? Higher self, the divine, God. That's the higher perspective. Do your work and step back. Also the Tao Te Ching, why would they say that? Do your work and step. They're saying don't be attached to the outcome because there is no control. They're telling us there's no control. How do we know there's no control? Because we can only ever act based off of our chemistry, our conditioning, and our level of understanding. Ever. We can only ever make one decision. So why are we getting all pent up and over trying to control things? What's expectation? Expectation is the ego vying for control, but there is no control. We can only ever make one decision. The world pushes these things like guilt on us and shame and regret. What? And sin. How can we sin when we can only ever make one decision? If we can only ever make one decision, why do I say that? Because whatever happens was always going to happen because it happens, right? Nothing else ever was going to happen. We could never make another decision because we can only act based off of our chemistry or conditioning level of understanding, ever. We were never going to make another decision. So how do we feel shame? So shame, regret, guilt, sin, that's all a trap of the ego. Thinking we have control. There is no control. There is no control. Stand in the center of the circle. If we want to be our higher self, if we want to allow the divine to work through us, we need to let go all of our attachments. Any attachment we have is going to keep us trapped in lower perspectives, and we're never going to be able to see the highest perspective. We're not going to be our higher self. If we're attached, we're not going to be our higher self. How do we be our higher self? Every second we're in the present moment, we're our higher self. We're dissolving the ego. We're detaching. Because we're not identifying with somebody, our somebodyness. We don't think we know. That he who thinks he knows is a fool. He who knows he doesn't know is a wise man. That's telling us, don't attach yourself to anything. Stand in the center of the circle. Don't attach yourself to knowing anything. You don't have control. Do your work and step back. Don't be attached to the outcome. Because that is going to keep us in lower perspectives. And when we're in lower perspectives, you're going to get had. You're always going to get had. Why do we get mad? Think about, why do we get mad? We get mad because were we expecting a different outcome? Whatever happens was always going to happen because it happens. And we get mad because we're not observing. The goal is to be so present that we're always the observer no matter what happens, and we won't get mad. Why are we in a hurry? Because we want to try to be somewhere else. We think we're in control. There's only divine timing. Why are we in a hurry? There's only divine timing. Once we realize there's nowhere else to be at no other time than right here, right now, no matter what we're doing, we won't be in a hurry anymore. Sometimes I catch myself, why am I in a hurry? There's nowhere else to be but right here, right now. Everything's in divine timing. Once we realize that every second we're present, the divine is working through us. Every second we're present, we're our higher self. Ain't nowhere to go, ain't nothing to do, but be right here, right now, and allow the divine, allow God to work through us, use us as a vessel. There is no control. Control is an illusion. It keeps us trapped. Because if you think you're in control of something, you're attached. That's an attachment. And any attachment is going to keep you in a lower perspective. This is why the circle is so important. This is why it says, stay in the center of the circle and allow all things to take their course. Allow, observe, don't be attached to an outcome. Do your work and step back. You don't need to be attached to an outcome because you don't have control, because we're just nature running off. We're nature running off. How can we sin when we're nature running off? We can only ever make one decision. There is no control, because whatever happens was always going to happen because it happens. There wasn't going to be a different decision ever. So there is no control. Control is an illusion. We're in a play. It is already written. We're the actor. Well, are we identifying with the actor, or are we observing the actor? That's the question. We want to be the observer. We want to detach ourselves. How do we detach ourselves? Stand in the center of the circle. Stay present. Presence and purification in God's love. This is why I always teach these things. Presence and purification. So how do we detach ourselves from getting mad? How do we detach ourselves from being in a hurry? How do we detach ourselves from expectation, from thinking we have control of anything? How do we do that? We have to empty our minds. We have to reconstitute our minds, because as long as we're in the cycles of thought, we're going to be trapped in the ego. We're going to think we have control. Thought supposes we have control, right? Thought makes us think we have control. Thought makes us think we know. Thought makes us identify with the ego, makes us think we're somebody doing something and we have control and we think we know because of thought. And what does the world do to us? It hammers us into thought. It creates chaos. It aggravates our minds. It stimulates our minds. So we're constantly thinking. We're in control, and we're constantly trapped. And we're never seeing the highest perspective, and we're not allowing our higher selves or the divine to work through us. Because we think we know, because we think we have control. Remember, we can only act based off of our chemistry, our conditioning, and level of understanding. We can only ever make one choice. Any choice you've ever made in your past, you are never going to make another choice. So there's no reason to have shame or guilt or regret about anything. Or be like, I'm a sinner. My wife said, what if a husband cheats on his wife? Okay, yeah, you can say that's a bad thing if you want to say there's good or bad, but it depends what level you're looking at it. At the same time, he was always going to do that, because we could only act based off our chemistry and conditioning level. Understand, if you go out and get pissed drunk, you were always going to do that, because you're only acting based on the only way you could possibly act. So think about this perspective, and especially the way other people act toward you. What's forgiveness? Forgiveness is instantly giving up control. That's what's forgiveness and unconditional love, what Jesus did. You're instantly giving up control. If you say, if you forgive people, you're admitting, all right, I'm giving up the fact that there was no control. I'm telling you, there's no control. That's what forgiveness is. So why don't we take the perspective of instantly forgiving others for the way they act and be the observer? That, again, depends what level we're looking at. Now, if you're on the level, obviously, if you're in a situation that is what we could see on the earth level as negative, we can try to remove ourselves from the situation, but we don't have to get mad about it, because it was always going to happen, and we can, observe it on that level, right? But again, this stuff was always going to happen. If I get my leg chopped off and some freak accident, why would I be mad? That was always going to happen. Yeah, your leg chopped off is not ideal. You'd like to have both your legs, but it's always going to happen. There's a lesson in everything. All of our suffering, there's a lesson. It is through suffering we grow closer to God. It is through suffering we gain wisdom. And it is through wisdom we gain the ability to help others with their suffering. Right? So, guys, remember, we got to give it all up. We have to give up all of our attachments. All of them. We have to dissolve the ego. We have to give up the illusion of control, because that's what it is. It's the greatest illusion. Thinking we're somebody doing something. Thinking we have control. Being attached to expectations. When you're attached to expectations, you're trapped. You're attached because you're going to be in your mind. You're going to be in your thoughts. Because any attachment that we're caught in, we're going to be caught in our thought, and we're not going to be present. Because if you have expectations, you're not going to be present because you're going to be attached. See, this is how this all works. It all kind of works together. So how do we stay in the center of the circle? We have to clean the mind. We have to clean the body, presence and purification. We have to facilitate a peaceful state. We got to be calm. We got to reconstitute the mind. We got to clean all the junk out of the mind so we stop being attached to anything. Stop thinking we have control. Become the observer. Always become the observer. This is how we receive divine inspirations and divine guidance. By emptying the mind. The reason they're always filling our mind and aggravating and stimulating our mind is because they don't want us to be our higher selves. They don't want us, they need us always attached to control. They need us always attached to something, to being somebody, to thinking we know, because that keeps us in lower perspectives, and that keeps us stuck in the illusion. And that allows them to continue to use us as energetic slaves. If we want to free ourselves from the illusion, we have to let it all go. We have to let all of our attachments go, including the illusion of control. That's why the Tao Te Ching is so profound. It says, stay in the center of the circle and allow all things to take their course. Do your work and step back. It's saying surrender. Surrender and just be present. You don't need to think. You need to observe, and you will get the understanding that you seek. The divine will take care of everything. God will take care of everything if you just surrender. That's what the center of the circle is. It's complete surrender. No attachments. What does the Bible say? Give it all up to God. Don't worry about a thing. They say the same thing. They all say the same thing. All these spiritual works are telling us the same thing. You got to give it all up. You got to empty the mind. You got to give up all your attachments. You got to give up all your somebodyness. So that's my lesson on control. Just wanted to make a quick video trying out my new mic. We'll see how well it worked. It's a wireless mic, trying to up my game a little bit. If anybody has any questions, please let me know. Thank you for joining me. Please like and subscribe. The circle is very important. This is why I've been using it in a lot of my recent videos. Stay in the center of the circle always. Be the observer. And if we're having trouble doing that or facilitating the observer state, the higher self, the divine, we have to look at what we have to do that, to calm the mind, to calm the body, clean the mind and the body, reconstitute the mind, purification, right? Eating raw fruits and vegetables, that's how we clean the body. And we get to this point where we can become the observer and stop being attached to outcomes. Surrender completely to God. We don't have to worry about anything. Why are we ever worried? We're worried because there's an illusion of control. I got to do something. I have to do this or else this is not going to happen. No, you have no control. There's only divine timing. You have to give it all up. Whatever happens is always going to happen because it happens. That's it. I am God's eternal love pouring forth. Namaste.